the next story is Graham Linehan invited to speak to speak about free speech at Parliament. Okay. So on the 4th of March, Pink News reported that former comedy writer turned professional transphobe Graham Linehan had been invited to speak on free speech by Parliament due to being banned from Twitter for violating terms of service, harassing both trans people and specifically cis women as well. Now, this is something that I have particular insight into, relating to a certain irony in how Graham Linehan is the same person that at the start of 2020 threatened me with lawsuit, a strategic lawsuit against public participation or SLAP suit, because I criticized his behavior and noted exactly what he was doing. That he's the reason I had to fundraise £2,000 just in case he tries to sue me, and that money's still sitting there in case anyone else is threatened with a similar lawsuit by Graham or someone else in the UK. Well, not necessarily someone else in the UK, but it's yeah. So like, it's fucking ironic for this person to be invited to Parliament to talk about free speech and how it's being undermined, when they have a known history of weaponizing slap suits, not just against me, but against Pink News, Hemant Mehta from the atheist community. Like, they are known for this. They are infamous for it. And the same for J.K. Rowling, who, of course, made an appearance in his testimony. It's funny how one of the pieces of evidence that Graham brings up and he laments about is how Pink News ran 42 articles on J.K. Rowling in targeting trans people over a week. And it's like, so your problem here is Pink News having free speech. Like, literally, his argument for how free speech is being cordoned in the UK is a newspaper line full of queer people coming out and publicly criticising J.K. Rowling for being transphobic. And he genuinely thought that was a decent argument. Again, J.K. Rowling...
Don't you get it, though? It's only free speech when it's speech that I like.
Free speech for me, censorship for everyone else. And, you know, on top of this, he never stops to reflect the fact that the reason he got banned from Twitter is because he was logged in 16 hours a day, harassing trans people, especially trans women, and cis women. He loved to harass cis women. Any cis woman that disagreed with him, he loved to harass. We're not talking about, like, generally disagreeing. We're talking about actual targeted fucking harassment. Sending his followers at them, attacking their physical appearance, trying to erase their identity, telling bisexual people that they're not really queer, etc. You know, all this sick shit he was doing, that's apparently fine. 16 hours of that a day for years, perfectly fine. An entire queer organization doing 42 articles covering an unfolding story, because when J.K. Rowling came out, it wasn't just the one thing. Over the next few days, it was like a chain reaction of not just J.K. Rowling, but everyone she's associated with coming out and saying different things. When Daniel Radcliffe came out, said something, that was another article, that includes J.K. Rowling. When Emma Watson comes out, talks on the matter, again, another article about J.K. Rowling. There was discussions about, like, fantasy, Fantastic Beasts and where to find them and how that's impacted and people were boycotting it. There was discussions about the game that's still in development. You know, all this shit going on. Then people went back and checked her other work. Here are, like, problematic stuff with the goblins, etc. Oh, let's talk about her Striker series, you know, the Silkworm and everything like that. You know, there was a lot of facets to that when she came out as a when she went full mask off about her bigotry. There were so many things to talk about. 42
Not just that, but
articles.
it sounds a lot like the articles weren't just about, her and talking
No.
about how horrible she
Yeah.
is, but also talking about like the cultural impact of things and her
Mm.
work. And like, it wasn't just sitting there on a Twitter account yelling at someone saying that they're all these horrible things.
Usually, like Graham Linehan loved to just go around screaming "beard" at trans people, which is funny
Yeah.
because like he did it a couple of times to like cis women, and it was just like, way to go,
Also
improving that
something.
you're such like a horrible little man. Sorry.
Uh, and like the other thing to keep in mind, of course, is this is like a professional publication, and like, I'm not an expert on this. I've just been researching this in my own time, but like I have been reading through the standards about this, and when it comes to publications, they have guidelines not just for spelling and punctuation and stuff like that, but there are ethical guidelines and stuff that they have to follow, and there are content guidelines. You can't just write whatever you want. It goes through an editor and all sorts of things. And it doesn't mean it's perfect. I've called out plenty of professional publications for being fucking disgusting before, but like it's not Graham Linehan sitting there on a Twitter account screaming at women. It's not directed at specific people most of the time. It goes through an editor. There are ethical guidelines. Like it is very much the pot calling the cutlery black here. Graham, this is not. You do so much worse than this.
Just a quick disclaimer. The Daily Fail is not a newspaper, therefore these ethical guidelines need not apply. Another big irony, of course, as is Graham Linehan's go-to argument, is the fact that he kept presenting trans people, specifically trans women, as dangerous, particularly to lesbians. What this left out is the fact that, as mentioned and even discussed in the last show, Graham Linehan has a long history of targeting, women, including lesbians. Last show we mentioned a story about Graham Linehan going on to the lesbian dating app Her, and like creating a fake profile trying to parody trans people. When he created the first one, nobody said anything. So like he photoshopped like cat ears and like stickers, like sexual stickers and stuff, and like to try and make the outrage that he wasn't quite clearly provoking. But here's the thing: I mentioned like how scary is it to be on that platform? Like you could be just have your profile screenshot and posted by Graham Linehan. I didn't know at the time Graham Linehan had done that. He had a article of screenshots of people he believes to be trans, saying these are not lesbians, and he just has, I think I actually wrote down the number, 20 of the app's service users, all of which are welcome on the service by Her's own by Her's own statement. He posted screenshots of them, of their profiles. He's endangering lesbians. He is the danger. Again and again, he proves this. He is the danger. But no one cares about that. So, I don't know if you've really got anything to add to this story.
All I can really say is that this is appalling behavior from the king of the lesbians. He ought to treat his subjects better.
But, as just kind of like icing on the cake, there'd been like a lot of speculation about why Graham's wife had left him. He came out and admitted the fact that, yes, she fucking booted his ass because of his transphobic shtick. For those that don't know, a couple of years into things, Graham Linehan's wife left him. There was also an incident in which he actually forgot he had children, which is kind of an interesting thing. But yeah, like he tries to soften it, but it's quite clear she just could not fucking put up with his shtick anymore. He was becoming too obsessive. So yeah, his wife got out. His wife did the smart thing.